The detective's voice was shaking when he called me that morning, not the kind of shake from too much coffee or a cold office. This was different. This was a man who'd found something that disturbed him. "Mrs. Holloway, I need you to sit down before we continue this conversation." I was already sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the empty high chair we still hadn't put away. 1 year and 2 days since my 3-month-old son, Jasper, died in his crib. 1 year and 2 days of my sister Francine telling everyone who'd listen that God took him because I wasn't meant to be a mother. 1 year and 2 days of my own parents nodding along with her cruel words. "Detective Thorne, what's wrong? Why are you calling about my son?" "The final autopsy results are in. We had to retest several cases from last year with new equipment." He paused, and I could hear him taking a breath. "Your baby didn't die from SIDS, Mrs. Holloway. We found something in his system that shouldn't have been there." My coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering on the floor. Brown liquid spread across the white tiles like blood. "What did you find?" "Diphenhydramine, adult-strength Benadryl, Mrs. Holloway, enough to stop his breathing." The room tilted. My perfect baby boy, who'd smiled at me just hours before he died, who'd wrapped his tiny fingers around mine during his last feeding, hadn't just slipped away in his sleep. Someone had poisoned him. Someone had murdered my 3-month-old son. Who had access to Jasper in his final 48 hours? The detective asked. I already knew the answer would destroy what was left of my family. My sister Francine, who couldn't have children of her own, had babysat him the night before he died. The same sister who stood at his funeral, holding my sobbing mother's hand, whispering that maybe God knew I wasn't ready for motherhood. The same sister who offered me comfort while hiding the worst secret imaginable. "Detective," I said, my voice surprisingly steady now, "I think I know who killed my baby." I never thought I'd be a mother at 27. When those 2 pink lines appeared on the pregnancy test that October morning, my hands trembled as I showed my husband Derek. We'd only been married 2 years, still figuring out our careers and paying off student loans. I was a dental hygienist at Riverside Dental, making decent money but nothing spectacular. Derek worked at the municipal water treatment plant, coming home each day with stories about pH levels and filtration systems that I pretended to understand. "Are you sure these tests are accurate?" Derek asked, holding the stick up to the bathroom light like he was examining evidence. "I took 3, I admitted, pointing to the counter where 2 more positive tests lay in a row. "We're having a baby." His face transformed from shock to pure joy in seconds. He lifted me off the ground, spinning me around our tiny bathroom, both of us laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby," he repeated, like saying it enough would make it feel real. My family's reaction was different. When I called my mother from our living room that evening, her first words weren't congratulations. "Well, I suppose you'll quit your job now," she said, her tone matter of fact. "Babies are expensive, Melody. I hope you've thought this through. You know your father and I can't help financially." "We weren't asking for money, Mom. I just wanted to share the news." "Have you told Francine yet?" she asked, and my stomach dropped. My older sister had been trying to conceive for 3 years at that point. 2 rounds of IVF had failed, and she just started her 3rd. "Not yet." "Maybe wait a bit. She's having a hard time with the treatments." But news travels fast in the Holloway family. Francine called me that night, her voice artificially bright. "Mom told me. Congratulations, little sister. First try, right? Some people have all the luck." The pregnancy flew by in a blur of morning sickness, prenatal vitamins, and nursery planning. Derek painted the spare bedroom a soft blue after our 20-week ultrasound revealed we were having a boy. I spent evenings assembling furniture, washing tiny clothes, and reading every parenting book the library had. Jasper William Holloway arrived on December 3rd at 4:47 a.m. after 12 hours of labor. 7 pounds, 2 ounces of perfection. The moment the nurse placed him on my chest, everything in my world shifted. His eyes, still puffy from birth, found mine, and I understood what unconditional love meant. "Look at those tiny fingers," Derek whispered, tears streaming down his face as Jasper gripped his index finger. "He's perfect, Mel, absolutely perfect." My parents visited the hospital once. My father held Jasper awkwardly for about 30 seconds before passing him back. "He looks healthy," he said. which was the closest to emotional he ever got. My mother spent the visit critiquing everything from my choice of formula supplement to the receiving blankets I'd picked. "These are too thin," she declared. "Babies need proper warmth. I'll send you some appropriate ones." She never did. Francine visited exactly once during those precious 3 months. It was a Tuesday afternoon in February. She stood in the doorway of the nursery watching me rock Jasper in the glider Derek's parents had gifted us. Her eyes moved from the crib to the changing table, to the wall decorated with woodland creatures, taking inventory of everything I had that she didn't. "You look exhausted," she finally said. "He's still waking up every 3 hours to eat, but the pediatrician says that's normal." Maybe Mom was right. Some people just aren't meant for this level of sacrifice. Before I could respond, she was gone, leaving me to wonder what I'd done to deserve such cruelty. But I was meant for this. Every 2 a.m. feeding became a private concert where I'd sing Beatles songs while Jasper drank his bottle. Every diaper change was a chance to make him giggle with silly faces. Every moment was precious, even the difficult ones. Jasper was what Dr. Brennan called an easy baby. He rarely cried without reason, slept in 3-hour stretches, and had started smiling real smiles at 6 weeks old. During his 2-month checkup, Dr. Brennan praised our routine. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," she said, marking his growth chart. "He's in the 60th percentile for weight and 70th for height. You're doing great, Mom." Those 3 months created a lifetime of memories compressed into fleeting moments. Morning walks through Riverside Park where Jasper would sleep peacefully in his stroller. Afternoon tummy time on the quilted playmat where he'd lift his head proudly, looking around at his domain. Evening baths in the small plastic tub where he'd kick his legs and squeal with delight. By the time Derek came home from work each day, he'd find us dancing in the kitchen, Jasper secured in his carrier against my chest, both of us swaying to Marvin Gaye or The Temptations. March 15th started like any other Tuesday. Jasper had his morning bottle at 6 a.m., taking it eagerly while staring at me with those deep blue eyes that everyone said he got from Derek. After feeding, I changed his diaper, smiling as he kicked his chubby legs and cooed at the mobile above his changing table. He went down for his morning nap at 8:30, falling asleep almost immediately after I swaddled him in his favorite blanket, the one with tiny elephants that my coworker Sandra had given us at my baby shower. I used the quiet time to fold laundry in the living room, keeping the baby monitor next to me, even though his nursery was just down the hall. The rhythmic sound of his breathing through the speaker was my constant companion as I sorted through tiny onesies and sleepers. I remember thinking how quickly he was growing out of his newborn clothes, how I'd need to pack them away soon. At 10 a.m., I walked to his room to wake him for his next feeding. The house was quiet except for the hum of the dishwasher in the kitchen. I pushed open his door gently, not wanting to startle him. "Good morning, sweet boy," I whispered, approaching the crib. "Ready for some milk?" He was lying on his back just as I'd placed him, but something was wrong. His chest wasn't moving. His skin looked pale, almost gray in the morning light filtering through the curtains. "Jasper?" I touched his back. Cold. Ice cold. "Jasper! Baby, wake up!" I snatched him from the crib, his body limp in my arms, no breath on my cheek, no pulse in his tiny neck. I ran to the living room, placed him on the couch, and started CPR while fumbling for my phone. 911, what's your emergency? My baby's not breathing. He's cold. He's not moving. Please help me. Ma'am, what's your address? I screamed our address while continuing chest compressions with 2 fingers, just like the infant CPR class had taught. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. The paramedics arrived in 6 minutes that felt like 6 hours. They worked on him for 20 minutes in our living room, then continued in the ambulance. I rode in the front seat, unable to watch, unable to look away. At Riverside General Hospital, they rushed him into the emergency room, while I stood in the hallway, still in my pajamas, Jasper's bottle from the morning feeding somehow still clutched in my hand. Dr. Martinez, whom I'd never seen before, finally emerged after what felt like forever. His face told me everything before his words did. "Mrs. Holloway, I'm so sorry. There was nothing we could do. Your son passed away several hours ago." "But he was fine this morning. He ate his whole bottle." He smiled at me. "These things happen with SIDS," he said gently. "Sudden infant death syndrome. There's no warning, no signs, nothing you could have done differently." Derek arrived 20 minutes later, having broken every speed limit from the water treatment plant. He found me in the family room, holding Jasper's body, which they'd finally let me have after all their procedures. My husband collapsed beside us, his work boots still muddy, his face crumpling as he touched our son's perfect, still face. The funeral was 3 days later at Riverside Funeral Home. The director had tried to convince us to use their smallest casket, barely bigger than a shoebox, white with silver handles. My family filled the first 2 rows. Francine sat between our parents, her hand on our mother's shoulder. Derek's family had flown in from Portland, his mother unable to stop crying, his father standing like a statue in his old Navy uniform he'd worn to honor his grandson. After the service, we gathered at my parents' house because my mother insisted that's what families do. I sat in their living room holding Jasper's favorite stuffed elephant, the one that played Twinkle Twinkle Little Star when you pressed its foot. That's when I heard Francine in the kitchen, her voice carrying clearly through the doorway. "Maybe this is God's way," she said to my Aunt Gloria. "Melody was so overwhelmed. She called me crying last month about how tired she was. Maybe God knew she wasn't ready to be a mother. The poor baby never had a chance with someone so scattered." My mother's voice joined in. "Perhaps it's a blessing. Melody was always irresponsible, even as a child. Remember when she forgot to feed the goldfish? They all died." "That was when I was 8, I wanted to scream. "I was 8 years old, and you never let me forget it." Instead, I sat frozen, listening to my family dissect my failures as a mother, while my son's body lay in the ground less than 2 hours. The goldfish. The time I forgot my homework in 5th grade. The semester in college when I got a C in chemistry. All evidence, apparently, that I wasn't fit to raise the child I'd loved more than my own life. 1 year and 2 days after. Jasper died. My phone rang at 7 a.m. I'd been awake since 5, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee I wasn't drinking, staring at the calendar. March 17th. Another month survived without my son. The number showed as unknown, and I almost didn't answer. Telemarketers had been relentless lately. "Mrs. Holloway, this is Detective Raymond Thorne with the County Coroner's Office. I need to speak with you about your son's case." My hands went numb. "What case?" "My son died of SIDS. The hospital told us there was no case." "Ma'am, that's what we need to discuss. Can you come to the station today? Bring your husband if possible." Derek drove us to the county building downtown, neither of us speaking during the 20-minute ride. We'd barely talked about Jasper in months. Every conversation led to tears, to blame, to the growing distance between us that felt impossible to bridge. Grief had made strangers of us. The detective's office was smaller than I expected, cramped with metal filing cabinets and stacks of folders. Detective Thorne was younger than his voice suggested, maybe 40, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and the sort of careful manner that suggested he delivered bad news regularly. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to 2 worn chairs across from his desk. "I know this must be incredibly difficult." "Why are we here?" Derek asked, his jaw tight. Detective Thorne pulled out a thick folder labeled with Jasper's name and case number. "During the initial investigation into your son's death, we ran standard toxicology as part of the autopsy. Everything came back normal. SIDS was the logical conclusion." He paused, adjusting his glasses. "Last month, the state provided us with new testing equipment, much more sensitive than what we had before. We were required to retest several cases from last year as part of the equipment validation process. Your son's was one of them." "And?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "We found traces of diphenhydramine in your son's system. Significant traces." "Diphenhydramine?" Derek leaned forward. "What is that?" "Benadryl," I answered, my medical training kicking in. "But I never gave him Benadryl. He was only 3 months old. The pediatrician said never to give him any medication without calling first." Detective Thorne nodded slowly. "The levels we found were far beyond accidental exposure, Mrs. Holloway. This concentration would have caused respiratory depression in an infant. The new equipment detected what the old tests missed." The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of my chair to steady myself. "Are you saying someone poisoned my baby?" I'm saying we need to investigate. This is now a potential homicide case. He opened a notebook, pen ready. I need you to think carefully. Who had access to Jasper in the 48 hours before his death? Just us, Derek said immediately. Melody was with him all day, every day. I was home in the evenings. Wait, I said, a memory surfacing through the fog of that terrible time. My sister babysat him the night before, March 14th. We went to your company dinner, remember? The one at Riverside Country Club. Derek's face went pale. Francine. She insisted we go, said we needed a night out. Detective Thorne wrote everything down. Tell me about that night, every detail you can remember. I closed my eyes, forcing myself back to that evening. Francine called that afternoon. She never offered to babysit before, but she was insistent. Said I looked tired, that all new parents needed breaks. The dinner was important for Derek's job, but I'd planned to skip it. What time did she arrive? 5:30. We left at 6. The dinner lasted until 9, and we were home by 9:30. How was Jasper when you returned? Asleep. Francine said he'd been fussy, which was unusual. He was generally so easy. She said she'd given him a bottle around 7 and rocked him to sleep by 8. I checked on him when we got home. He seemed fine, maybe sleeping deeper than usual, but I thought he was just tired. Did she mention giving him anything? Any medicine? No, nothing. She said she just rocked him longer than usual because of the fussiness. Detective Thorne asked dozens more questions about Francine's relationship with me, her history with Jasper, any previous concerning behavior. Then he asked the question that shattered my last illusion about my family. Mrs. Holloway, does your sister have children of her own? No. My voice broke. She's been trying for 5 years, multiple rounds of IVF. The last one failed just a month before Jasper was born. The detective and Derek exchanged a look that made my stomach drop. She kept saying I didn't deserve him, I whispered, the pieces falling into place. At the funeral, she told everyone God took him because I wasn't fit to be a mother. What if she decided to prove it? 2 weeks of investigation felt like 2 years. Detective Thorne called daily with updates, each one more damning than the last. Derek and I barely slept, existing in a strange limbo between grief and rage. On April 3rd, the detective called us back to the station, this time with prosecutor Patricia Vance present, a woman whose sharp eyes and carefully organized files suggested she didn't lose cases. We've built a comprehensive timeline, Detective Thorne said, spreading documents across the conference table. Your sister purchased liquid Benadryl from 3 different pharmacies in the week before Jasper's death, different stores to avoid suspicion, all paid in cash. He slid receipts toward us, Francine's credit card records showing ATM withdrawals matching the amounts. My hands shook as I recognized the pharmacy locations, all within 10 miles of her apartment. We obtained a warrant for her electronics, Prosecutor Vance continued. Her search history from March 10th through March 14th tells us everything. She researched infant Benadryl dosing, how much would cause sleep versus respiratory distress, how long it stays in an infant's system. She visited parenting forums asking theoretical questions about giving babies antihistamines. She planned this? Derek's voice was hollow. We found more. Detective Thorne pulled out photocopied pages. These are from journals we discovered in her apartment. Mrs. Holloway, your sister, wrote extensively about her infertility and her resentment toward you. Patricia Vance picked up one page, reading in a clinical tone that somehow made the words worse. March 8th. Melody complained for 20 minutes about being tired at Sunday dinner. 20 minutes. I've been tired for 5 years, exhausted from hormone shots, from procedures, from failure after failure. She got pregnant without even trying. She has everything I was supposed to have. Sometimes I think about how easy it would be to show everyone she doesn't deserve that baby, that she can't protect him, that God made a mistake giving him to her instead of me. I couldn't breathe. Derek grabbed my hand, squeezing hard enough to hurt. There's more, the detective said gently. An entry from March 14th, the day she babysat. Vance read again. Tonight's the night. Just enough to scare them. Just enough to make him sick so everyone sees she can't take care of him. Maybe a few days in the hospital. Maybe social services gets involved. Maybe Mom finally sees that I should have been the one to have a baby first. I measured 3 times. I know exactly how much. Not too much, just enough. But she gave him too much, I said, understanding flooding through me like ice water. Based on the concentration we found and the time of death, she gave him approximately 3 times what she intended, Detective Thorne confirmed. We believe she panicked when he was fussier than expected and gave him more to make him sleep. She didn't account for his lower body weight compared to the averages she found online. She murdered my baby because he cried? My voice didn't sound like my own. We arrested her this morning, Prosecutor Vance said. She confessed partially, claiming she never meant for him to die. But intent to cause harm is still homicide when it results in death. We're charging her with second-degree murder. That evening, my phone rang constantly, my mother hysterical and accusatory. How could you do this to your sister? She just called from jail. This is insane, Melody. She loved that baby. She killed him, Mom, she confessed. They have evidence. That's impossible. The police must be pressuring her. You've destroyed our family over some mistake, some misunderstanding. Francine would never hurt anyone. She researched how to poison my 3-month-old son. She bought the Benadryl. She gave it to him. She killed him because she was jealous. Don't you dare speak about your sister that way. She's suffered enough with the infertility. Now you're taking away her freedom too? What kind of sister are you? I hung up. My father never called. He never did anything that might require choosing sides or showing emotion. The trial lasted 3 weeks in September. Francine's lawyer, some expensive attorney my parents hired, argued for involuntary manslaughter, claiming emotional distress from infertility treatments had impaired her judgment. He painted her as a victim of her own maternal instincts gone wrong. The prosecutor methodically presented every piece of evidence, every journal entry, every calculated step Francine had taken to harm my child. I testified for 4 hours, describing my perfect baby, our routine, that last morning when he smiled at me. Derek testified about coming home to find his son dead, about the months of guilt thinking we'd somehow failed to prevent SIDS. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Guilty. Second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 25 to life. As the bailiffs prepared to lead her away, Francine turned to look at me. No tears, no apology, no breakdown. Just a cold, steady stare that conveyed what she'd believed all along. You didn't deserve him. Her lips formed silently. She was wrong. But being right wouldn't bring Jasper back. It's been 3 years now. Derek and I packed up everything and moved to Colorado Springs, where the mountains remind us that there's something bigger than our grief, where no one knows our story unless we choose to tell it. We bought a small house with a yard full of aspens that turn gold every fall. Nothing like the maples of Riverside. We have a daughter now, Luna, 18 months old with her father's steady temperament and my stubborn streak. She has Jasper's eyes, the same deep blue that seems to see right through you. My parents haven't met her. They chose Francine over the truth, visiting her every week in prison, sending money for her commissary account, hiring lawyers for appeals. They write me letters occasionally. Poison dressed up as concern, saying I destroyed our family, that I should have left things alone, that Jasper's death was God's will until I involved the police. The last letter accused me of being vindictive, of robbing Francine of her chance to have children through adoption someday. I don't write back anymore. Some bridges need to stay burned. Family isn't always blood, my therapist, Dr. Chen, reminds me during our monthly sessions. Sometimes the most toxic people in our lives share our DNA. You're protecting Luna from people who would excuse her murder if it happened. That's not cruel. That's motherhood. Derek's parents sold their house in Portland and moved 20 minutes away from us. His mother, Grace, watches Luna while we work, and his father, Robert, built a playground in their backyard with a swing set and sandbox. They keep 2 photos on their mantle in matching silver frames, one of Jasper from his 3-month photo session, smiling in a tiny bow tie, and one of Luna from last Christmas. 2 grandchildren, Grace always says when visitors ask. One here, one in heaven. Last month, a letter arrived with the prison's return address. My first instinct was to burn it unopened, but something made me read it. Francine's handwriting was smaller than I remembered, cramped like she was trying to save paper. I pray every day that you understand I loved him too. I just loved the idea of him being mine more. I see that now. The therapy here has helped me understand what I did, what I took from you, from Derek, from him. I don't expect forgiveness. That would be obscene to ask. I just needed you to know that I think about him every day. I think about who he'd be at 4 years old. Would he like dinosaurs or trucks? Would he be shy or outgoing? I stole all those answers. I'm sorry I took him from you. I'm sorry I took him from himself, from all the life he should have lived. I'm sorry I was so broken that I broke everything around me. I didn't write back. Some apologies come too late, and some wounds don't heal. They just scar over, and you learn to live with the mark they leave. Detective Thorne called last week with unexpected news. He's retiring next month, but wanted me to know something first. Because of Jasper's case, the state now requires more sophisticated testing in all SIDS cases. They've found 3 other murders in the past 2 years that would have gone undetected with the old equipment. Your son is saving other babies, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Parents are getting justice because of him. Killers aren't walking free because of what we learned from his case. I thought you should know that his death changed things. It means something. I watch Luna sleep sometimes, standing in her doorway fighting the urge to check her breathing every 5 minutes. The fear never fully leaves, the possibility that someone could take her too, that I could wake up to another morning of devastating silence. But I can't live in that fear. I can't let Francine steal my ability to trust, to love fully, to be present for the daughter who needs me. Instead, I choose to remember Jasper's 3 months of life, not just his last day. His gummy smiles that lit up his entire face, his tiny fingers that would wrap around mine like he was holding on to the whole world. The weight of him on my chest during those quiet morning feeds when the house was still, and it felt like we were the only 2 people in existence. He was loved completely for every second he was here. Despite what Francine believed, despite what my family said, I was exactly the mother Jasper needed me to be. Every bottle fed with patience, every diaper changed with gentle hands, every lullaby sung with love proved it. I know that now with a certainty that no one can steal. Jasper knew it too, every time he looked at me with those trusting eyes, every time he calmed at the sound of my voice. Luna is stirring from her nap, making those little sounds. That means she'll be fully awake soon. Time for her afternoon bottle and our walk to the park. As I prepare her formula, I whisper the same words I used to say to Jasper, now a promise backed by hard-won knowledge. Mommy's here, baby. Mommy will always protect you. This time, I know exactly how to keep that promise. If this story touched you, if it made you hug your children a little tighter tonight, please share this video with others who need to hear it. Leave a comment below about how we can better protect our babies and support each other through unimaginable loss. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories of survival, justice, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. Your support helps us continue sharing these important stories that need to be heard. Thank you for listening to Jasper's story. May his memory be a blessing and a warning that sometimes the greatest dangers come from those closest to us.